IVM.
Previously on this podcast, you heard Aakash, Shah and Ranveer Beer Biceps Allahbadia talk to me about starting up creative companies. I loved their insights. And to continue the conversation, I've thought of calling in two more seasoned creative entrepreneurs to offer a deeper dive into managing the new media empires of today. Anirudh Pandita is one of three founders of Pocket Aces, the company behind Filter Copy, Dice Media, Gobble and Loco. While Anuj Gosalia is a co-founder and CEO at TTT, a company that started as a Facebook page but now is one of the most recognizable names in short video fiction. I talked to them about how they apply management philosophies to entertainment startups, how they manage the creative versus business conflict at the heart of growth for any entertainment company, and what their entertainment startups look like in 2025. Tune in to Storytellers and Story Sellers for my chat with Anuj and Anirudh right after these messages.
घड़ी की टिक टिक के बीच अब वक्त हो चुका है टपरी पे मिलने का, चाय या कॉफी के साथ टपरी टेल्स सुनने का। सोचिए, अगर आपकी मम्मी, अक्का, दादी, नानी, जीजी, आजी भी आपके साथ इस चाय की टपरी पे एक चुस्की लेने आ जाए तो कैसी बातें होंगी? उनकी कहानियाँ कितनी नई या पुरानी होगी? एक्चुअली ना, टपरी पे पहली बार ये उनकी जुबानी होगी। तो मिलिए इन नए किरदारों से हर गुरुवार टपरी टेल्स पर। चाय की प्याली, एक नई कहानी with Madhuri Advani on IVM Podcast app, website or wherever you get your podcast from.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Storytellers and Story Sellers. A couple of episodes ago, we were talking to Ranveer and Aakash about turning entrepreneurs from creators. It was a very interesting conversation that led to great insights about how young media companies are born and run. And I thought of extending that conversation with a couple more seasoned entrepreneurs who've eked out a space for themselves and their companies in the new entertainment landscape. In the studio today, we have Anuj Gosalia, co-founder and CEO of TTT, and Anirudh Pandita, founder of Pocket Aces, the company behind Dice Media, Filter Copy, Gobble and Loco. Great to have you in the studio, guys. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Vineet?
I'm very well too. I'm very excited to have you guys here. Anirudh, I want to get started right away with you because I think we have a lot to talk about given the way I've set this episode up. But just to get our listeners started, I don't think Pocket Aces or Filter Copy or Dice Media needs any new introduction, but where I want to get this going to give a sense to our listeners about how it is that a company of your size and stature comes about over the past 5-6 years, can you give us a quick outline of the key milestones in the journey of Pocket Aces so far?
Yeah, I think I'll try to tell it differently from how it's been told before. And I think it's a company which is formed by two friends, started together. We wanted to make a mark in the film and media industry because we felt India's cultural impact was not being seen in the business of entertainment, right? So when you traveled, you saw Shah Rukh Khan and Amitabh Bachchan being mentioned, but you didn't see where was our business compared to what Hollywood was doing. And it started from that, and then I think we kind of stumbled and kept our eyes open and stumbled upon the digital ecosystem that exists today. And so today, obviously, we are well known as the home of some of the best short form content in India. 700 million video views per month, billion minutes watched. We've made some of the most popular web series in India, whether it's Little Things, which is now a Netflix original, What the Folks, Adulting, which are very, very well known, Loco, which is a large interactive and esports platform, and Gobble, which is a food platform. The journey, I think the key moments in the journey, I think first was the pivot from film to digital, which I think was a really, really important learning on how to find something new and continue growing. The first time any video went viral for us on any of the channels, that was important. And then I think at each stage to rediscover and refashion the company, which I think we'll talk about later, just to think, look back and think about what comes next in entertainment and what is our mission truly. And I think once we found that mission into our journey, which today we say, right, solving boredom is our mission.
I think it's a beautiful, well put together, pithy way of saying it.
Yeah. And so I think along this journey there was all these small moments which gave us confidence and gave us a lot of learning on how to keep building. And we'll obviously talk about them in a bit.
Fantastic. I think what I heard was three things about a realization that digital was a faster growing medium. The second was that moment of truth, I think, when audience appreciation really hits home. When people are like, hey, something we made is probably shared back to me on WhatsApp. I think that moment is just like a moment of reckoning and future mapping and expanding. I mean, I think the platform that this success has given you and looking forward. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. Anuj, how about you? What's the highlights of the TTT story been?
I think quickly, again, I want to talk about our starting journey in a slightly different way. And this is something that I'm also asked often, like, how do you start a new business? And for the longest time, my ambition was to start a big company, right? So ironically, we are called Terribly Tiny Tales, but I always wanted to build the next big thing. And very privately, out of a personal passion, I started a Facebook page called Terribly Tiny Tales to solve my own problem of not being able to read longer text. And I wouldn't be able to finish books. And out of that small everyday practice of putting out a tale, first on my own and then with a handful of friends and amazing writers, we organically built a community. So sometimes a startup is born out of A, solving a personal problem, B, it often looks like a project. It doesn't even look like a company. Yeah. And that was my big learning, that what I aim to build with all my left brain, not that I deny the value of it, but very scientifically, often was just instinctively wrong. But this, which was just pure instinct, mushroomed into a much larger community and therefore evolved into an organization. So quickly about how we began there. Since then, we've grown into a community now which reaches 20 million people weekly. And we pivoted first from doing 140 character stories, which were tweet-sized fiction, realized that was truly terribly tiny. We in fact shrunk 140 to 6 words. Stories as short as looking for stars, downloaded app, still indoors. Wow. So 6-word stories, but realized that had a niche, very loving community, but it wouldn't scale. And so again, to reinvent the organization, and not just the organization, because it looked less like an organization then, but the idea, and said, okay, let's do longer format stories. So we opened up to 2,000 characters, which is the extent of Instagram today. Then we said, why limit this idea to text? Why don't we make videos? And we launched Terribly Tiny Talkies. We made over 40 films now. Many of them have gone on to win prestigious awards across the world, including our Oscar, which is a Filmfare. Many small decisions that led us to become less tiny with every step. Right. We also launched books in association with Penguin. We've sold over 40,000 copies. Again, all bestseller lists. Wow, yeah.
So, but it's 1,000 copies to a bestseller list in India?
10,000.
10,000? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but in any case, we wanted to essentially reimagine the book first for the modern Indian.
I have this book, the one that you're talking about.
Yes.
I have it.
So, although we did publish printed books, the goal is going forward, is the book relevant for the young person who, in my office, many of them haven't read in the last 2-3 years, but they're constantly on our app, on Instagram, and on our app, we have over 300,000 users
clocking in
serious amount of time. So I'll talk a lot about that as we go on.
Really want to double click on how you've enabled this sort of marketplace of creativity. But what really strikes me is that it's not just a growth story in terms of how your team has grown, how I'm sure revenues have grown, output has grown, but it's also a growth story in terms of the number of words you've used, right? Starting from 140 characters or 6 words, like starting from for sale, baby shoes never worn to now 40 films. That's quite a growth story, right? I'm personally a massive fan of flash fiction, short fiction especially. There's this book called The YOLO Pages, which is like a collection of Twitter poetry, right? So, kudos to you to be able to visualize that leap from digital content, flash fiction to a hardbound book. I think that should have place of pride for you guys. Before we get into talking about your companies, I want to ask you guys, what has been some work that you've seen, right? I mean, you've done great films in your own right. You've got web series on Netflix. But what is some work that you've seen, especially video, that is, I mean, could be yours, could be a competitor, that has truly excited you, and that you've been like, hey, we've done X so far, this raises the bar for us, and maybe that's what we want to chase when it comes to video. Anirudh?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think multiple things obviously that have come out in the West have been done very, very well. So I think documentary as a genre, I think it's a very, very important, interesting genre that I watch personally, which we don't do at all in India right now at any scale. So whether it's Asaf Kapadia's work in, with Senna or Amy, which I like both of them, some of the work that Vice has done there, the war reporting I thought was phenomenal. In terms of series, I'm actually not a big series guy, weirdly enough, even though we are in the golden age of series. I'm much more a film and short fiction, actually, meme kind of guy.
And a podcast guy.
Yeah, and now a podcast guy. But in recent series, I really, really, really enjoyed Stranger Things, which I watched very late. And I was just blown away by what I saw. And then, yeah, amongst the Indian series, I really like Delhi Crime. I think by far the best made series in India. And apart from that, I think it's often short fiction, which I really like. So it could be a dog video or something else, and then it just gets me thinking about content in general. But yeah, these are different genres of entertainment which are not related to each other in any way. But I think it also shows the span of our own content that we are now creating and supporting. And I think it's not one versus the other or looking down on one versus the other. It's just recognizing that they're all different forms of expression and entertainment. And yeah, I enjoy all of them.
And you might end up watching all of them in the same day, depending on the use case, depending on the time, place, wherever, right? Anuj, same question to you. What's been something that you've seen done in the industry internationally in India that's looked like, hey, this is something that I want to check?
Yeah, I think I've been a new but very, very deeply excited consumer of podcasts. So I love audio as a format because of its intimacy. I think also because of the addition of AirPods, the combination of well-produced audio and a good headset, it just changes the game.
It does.
And so I've obviously in the recent past spent a lot of time trying to figure what kind of audio experience is very, very intimate, but yet it feels like you can so my only problem with sometimes the podcasts that currently exist is maybe because I'm terribly tiny tails, but they just seem too long sometimes, and
we're guilty of that.
No, but it allows you to build deeply engaged communities, but sometimes if you want something snacky but meaningful, I think there is a space there. So there's an app called Knowable, which does audio courses, and they're all bite-sized, so 10-minute courses. I mean, they're long, 2-hour courses, but strung together as 10-minute episodes.
Right.
Very, very well produced. So and run by, like, say, Alexis Ohanian of Reddit, and so by experts, but very, very well produced. So I feel like there's definitely an opportunity there which excites me personally for TTT. But again, so bite-sized audio is my new thing. Succession, so on video.
Oh yeah, man, I love that
like
show.
Succession.
Succession's incredible.
It's an amazing show.
So completely dug that.
I mean, especially for a words guy, because the way they use words,
Yeah,
right?
It is, the writing is special.
Yeah,
right?
so
The writing is
the
absolute-
Nerd Writer
video, exactly.
video,
Yeah.
that is
My God, that is
amazing.
good.
Just incredible. So Succession, and not because Anirudh is here, but little things like the latest one. I think the simplicity of the writing there is very rare. It's also aspirational because at TTT, the films and the content we make also tries to tell stories which are sort of intimate, and the Khujlis and the Kheers that we've made, they're all like contained, but they move people. I thought you guys were able to achieve that incredibly.
I think a couple of days ago, there obviously some really late bloomers to the web space. A couple of friends of mine who happened to check out Little Things last week, and they had the exact same thing to say. They were like, I didn't know it was this sweet and lovely and beautiful, and we were like, watch this stuff, man.
One more addition I want to make is a show that doesn't leave me. It's Ye Meri Family.
Oh yeah.
I again the nostalgia plus the quality of the writing, the scene building. It's beautiful. It's extremely aspirational.
It's funny that you could have named Succession Ye Meri Family also.
And they'll both still be known for writing, but yeah, that's an interesting way to put it.
In Succession, when I watched it, it's like it screws with your head all the time, and then that rap that he does, L to the OG. I just kept singing it in my family. They're like, dude,
stop,
just stop, please.
Oh man, it's an amazing show, and what I really liked about it was even Reed Hastings turned around and said, dude, I love this show, but why the hell is it not binge watchable? Why do I have to wait another week? Which is, again, just new models that are coming through because of the internet. Pivoting this conversation to our companies and storytelling, I want to start by asking you, Anirudh. I read a lot about the process at Pocket Aces being very data driven to storytelling. Now, I know Netflix has talked about this a lot, and I don't think it's completely understood what data driven storytelling really means, right? And what the extent of it, what the possibilities could really be like. For some people, data-driven storytelling is, oh, hey, we saw this video, it didn't work, so we never made a video like that again. Versus there are some models of data-driven storytelling where you go down to retention rates and feed that back to your script writer. How does it work at Pocket Aces? Can you break that down?
There's that one of those brands which has short banate jao, short milate jao, large banate jao. So that's actually our philosophy also, which is the short form content gives us the data and the distribution then to make long form content. And I think with each short form content, we do have a hypothesis of why it should work and why it doesn't work. But if it doesn't work, we don't lose too much. Obviously, if it works, of course, great, and we learn something new. And every time, let's say a writer is writing about a certain topic, they have 20, 30 now increasing number of videos to watch and see this worked or this didn't work. What are the kind of jokes people liked? What are the themes that really emerged out of that? And we are doing even more deeper data work now. We have a specialized data science team which is actually looking at a lot of this data that we have and drawing out simple conclusions which help our content become more successful. And most of them are distribution driven, right? So is the 95% completion rate more important than, shares? It's a question. We don't know the answer. We will do the work and then we'll see and we'll make some changes to our content and see what happens. Why does something trend on YouTube? This, age-old question which even YouTube doesn't answer. Like, we try to answer some of those questions. And then, how much better is X actor than Y actor, right? In terms of impact. Does it actually make such a difference, right? And so it really, really comes down to the question. The quality of the question is way more important than anything else. And data by itself is just numbers. So drawing the insights are very important. And I think having a culture of that is important. So it's important for writers to ask these questions also. Because I've said this before, we're not just a place where people can just come tell stories and that's it. We're not doing that. We're in the business of entertainment, and our customers are very, very, very important to us. That doesn't mean that you ask the customer what to make.
Right.
But empathizing with the customer and understanding that human condition and what it means to be living in India today in a big city or a small city and is very important. Right. And we track other channels also. And who are the other creators who are doing well? I mean, a lot of the directors of Anuj's content, we've approached in the past because you see the kind of content they're making and you say, okay, this is someone who could tell the story very well.
Right.
Now, is that a data-driven culture? Yes, in some ways, but I'm not just seeing the numbers there. There's a bit of insight in that, right? Who can direct well in this? We have those processes set up.
Right.
But more than anything, it's just looking at every piece of content and recording that, and then drawing insights on top of that. And the insight could just start very simply from just seeing engagement data, shares, retention, all that stuff, and then going up towards more fancy, data-driven techniques or whatever.
Right.
And of course, when you have your own app with Loco and stuff, there is a lot more you can do.
Go deeper.
You can go much deeper. You can really analyze in the cohorts which are the high usage cohorts. You can call them, like we call our users all the time now, and just talk to them. And a lot of times the conversation is not about Loco. It's just about, hey, what do you do in your life, and where are you from, and how do you spend your day? And then you really start understanding the audience. And I think that, to me, is always something I'm scared that we stop doing, which is stop talking to consumers. And now I'm again personally speaking to consumers. Since the last time I was here at IBM, it was one of the things I said on that podcast, and I've started doing it again, and we're learning so much that, we talk about tier 2 audiences, tier 3 audiences, and, it used to irritate me a little bit because my parents grew up in, tier 2, tier 3 town, and I'm like, they don't seem that tier 2, tier 3 to me. जो ये describe
which is where?
Srinagar, right? तो वो कितनी tier 2 है, मतलब वो होता क्या है? And a lot of people in India, there's so much migration that someone who's moved from Bihar to Bombay, when do they become tier 1?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a really interesting thing. But when you talk to people, you're like, I spoke to a user recently. Guy lives 1.5 hours away from Tonk in Rajasthan. So I said, पूरे दिन करते क्या हो? कुछ करने को ही नहीं है, यहाँ पे कुछ है नहीं. तो कॉलेज जाता हूँ जब बोर होता हूँ. So college is also a solution to his boredom. Right. So you learn a lot about what these guys are doing. They'll describe. One guy said, yeah, I watched Baghi and I watched Student of the Year. So I said, you're basically a Tiger Shroff fan. And he said, yeah. And guess what? In our offices, if you ask that question, we know what answer you'll get.
Yeah,
वो कौन है, क्यों उसको तो नहीं आती acting, but clearly he's doing something with someone. So understanding that is important. So I think each of these, mixing the data with these qualitative insights, or using a qualitative insight and saying, okay, does the data support it, or what can I run as an experiment? That's really important. Otherwise, I think experiments are run very badly. They're like, ये तो experiment था. It's a way of hiding your failure.
Yeah.
ये तो experiment था.
It's a way of saying, we don't really care if this succeeds, and we probably don't even care about analyzing it properly. It's just something we want to do. Yeah. But I loved a couple of things that you just said. I think the word that stood out really was empathy.
Yeah.
And the symptom of missing empathy for your viewer is this whole chi syndrome, right? You hear it for TikTok as well. They're like, do you watch TikTok? I'm like, dude, have you seen? So TikTok is what India wants to watch, right? For years we've been saying this, tier 1 में ये चलता है, tier 2 में वो चलता है, ये चलता है, देख लो. 65 million people on that app have told you what they want to watch. Anyway, but empathy, I think that's super important. When I started my time in entertainment, a lot of the measurement that I was trying to bring in was very FMCG oriented, which is also great measurement, especially when it comes to messaging, etc. But in terms of research and empathetically understanding your user, I think that there are a lot of learnings here from what would seem e-commerce techniques, right? I mean, and Amazon would have a lot of cohorts that they regularly talk to, trying to understand what works, what doesn't work. So, fantastic. I think that's a great approach to looking at it. Uncover stuff that you may just know intuitively to never look at, and then you open your eyes and see, hey, wait 1 second, all of this is really working. Anuj, I want to bring you in here and get your thoughts on how data plays a role in your storytelling. I know the models are fundamentally different, but I mean, the internet has enabled writers coming in from everywhere. I'm sure when you go out there looking for talent, there is enough latent or even visible talent available. Then what signals do you read to understand how this might play a role in what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think early on we realized that when we started as a publisher brand. So we have 15 of us writing one story a day. So very creator led. Mujhe ye kahani bolni hai. And then we realized that who are we 15 of us to say 1500 or 15,000 or 15 million can't write. So
again, that's empathy, right? There's a bit of empathy there.
Yeah, and just to the whole idea, the advantage that the internet, and I'm a deep believer of the democracy of the internet.
Totally,
I was like, मैं हूँ आज because of the internet. Why am I being another gatekeeper, right? So to other people. So but at the same time, because we were a publisher brand, we said if we open the tap completely, we might go all over the place. So what can we do to get people? And curate, but at scale. So the first thing we did was we opened, before the app came out, we had a type form. And suddenly we realized from 15 hours writing, we had 2,000 stories coming in every day.
Wow.
So we had that volume come in every day. We realized we had like 5 curators in office.
How is it? Is it humanly possible to read that between 5
It
people?
wasn't. So we figured,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
my partner Anshuman, who builds tech, we were like, we need to solve for this. So what we did was we basically got our curators to rate hundreds of tales and created essentially a mental model for the kind of content they like.
Right.
And then we invited curators. These were people across the country who had an app. It was like Tinder. You could just read stories and right swipe, left swipe. And so we got them to rate all these tales
Wow.
on a scale of 1 to 10. And the people, whatever, we ran a deviation test, and the people closest to our taste
Right.
got chosen. So we had 100 people essentially on a daily basis getting, out of 2,000, they were getting 200 or 20
Right.
tales. And so all they had to do was spend 15 minutes on this app and just swipe. And
Sort of like a statistical sorting already happened.
yeah, so
beforehand.
all
Yeah,
we got
that's a
was
smart
like
way to do it.
any tale upwards of X rating came back to us, and then all we had to do was review 100 tales on a daily basis, which was completely doable.
Manageable, yeah.
That's how we started. That was the first way to bring some amount of tech plus data to solve curation. Then we realized, of course, that at some point this still makes us a gatekeeper. So we finally opened up the app as a network, and now everyone can create, and it's really like Twitter for fiction. But on the publisher front, which is our social pages, we now have started doing, because again, I spoke to Arunab a while ago, and he said like people get data crunching really badly wrong, because it can misfire in many ways. So, and it's something we're still trying to make sense of. So what we're doing is something we know already. We can listen, and we, as creators, we can call our users and, like Anirudh said, just talk to them. Like, what do they like? What are their joys? What are their disappointments? And our stories
Understand them better.
Our stories connect.
Right.
So we're just right now, the focus is to just listen to our users, call 20, create a meetup, create a free environment where they can talk about their lives, and we're sharing some tips from our side about writing, and just create an environment where they can be freely associated with us and learn from that. Outside of that, everything that Facebook, Instagram gives you is obviously relevant. So shares and time spent is a big metric. I think our North Star has become completion rate so far, because that feels like a sense of deep engagement with the content. So, and we want to create content where people can stay the distance. So we're optimizing for that right now, but this all keeps changing.
Fantastic. I think I was talking about metrics to a friend the other day, and actually I was talking about it to Radio Mirchi. I was there for just a general session, and they asked me what kind of metrics should we look at. And I think what's important is that you look at metrics that actually mean something, right? And vanity metrics, like a view is a very vanity metric. You can have, view is passive, view could be bought. So I love it that you're looking at quartile and completion or like-dislike ratios. These are kind of metrics that have been, they're not natural metrics in this space, right? And didn't exist before. And we've kind of formalized them into meaning something. Couple of follow-ups to this, and very, very different follow-up questions. So first up, in terms of metrics, different audiences or different stakeholders have different metrics that they're chasing, right? Your brand is looking at a different metric, your investors are looking at different metrics, consumers are often looking at metrics as well. So, but let me leave consumers out for a second. What is the key difference in the language of metrics for investors versus, say, a brand? Any just quick thoughts on that?
Actually, the way we look at it, right, is that if you divide your company into 4 spheres, which is there are financial outcomes, there are consumer needs, there are internal processes you need to have, and you need to invest in human growth. If you have, on those 4, you have different kind of aims, and actually one supports the other.
Right.
Finally, you're a company, there has to be Hopefully has to be profitability, although nowadays seems to be de-emphasized.
Yeah.
But there has to be some revenue, some business metrics and top-level metrics. It could be views or whatever. It has to be one metric which everyone looks at, and then when you click into that metric, you can look at all these completion rates and all these things, or how you get them, etc. There's some financial names, revenue or whatever. There could be, like, if you're in an early business, right, like a Loco or something like the new app that they may launch at TTT, it could just be finding a business model or finding the right product market fit. And what does that mean? And then under that is, but what do you want consumers to say about you, right? And having that mentality is important. And once the consumers say that about you, then your financial goals will start happening. So, for example, if for a customer, right, like for an advertiser, if they say Pocket Aces is the best place to get the right audience and the highest level of engagement, it will obviously support my revenue.
Right.
But then I need to have a process to ensure that customer feedback happens in a year or 2 years from now. And if I need to have a process, I need to also train people and have the right people. So it's all connected. And I think one of the things is, as you grow, you just have to open up more and more in terms of your own data and your own internal metrics to everyone in the company. Because when you're smaller, it's much easier. You can do it more informally. So you just 10 people sitting around a room. Actually, everyone knows all the numbers. You don't even have to have a formal meeting for it. If you have a dashboard or something, people see it. But as you get bigger, that changes. And I think that's something that we've really focused this year on, because we've grown quite a lot in size, and we're really, really thinking about how does the N+1 person feel the same amount of passion as the person who joined early. And that can only happen when they have the same amount of information available to them. Otherwise, it becomes that, good old mill worker versus Seth type of scenario.
जो बताया जाएगा वो
करेंगे और फिर मतलब मैं अब तोड़ी मिल में काम करता हूँ या शिनॉय सेठ के मिल में काम करता हूँ, एक ही बात है. It's, same shit, different day. So that has to change. And once they feel that, you know what, the company has to get X amount of revenue, or the company has to get this view metric or whatever, some metric, and they feel connected to it, the game changes a lot, because they feel like I contributed to that. And I think that's been a big effort this year for us, is really, really thinking about that. And it's obviously internal, but for young people, for example, that becomes something that's really important. So we get that knowledge to them, and also then ensure that they ship quickly, for example, right? Those kind of small things which are more for them, right? So, someone who's working on a video quickly gets a video out. So they feel like, man, I made something, it got X number of views, so many people watched it. They feel empowered, because now what I've realized is when people come to our company, it's not like earlier. Earlier it was like, can we get somewhere? Can we get to that fit or whatever? Now it's like, shit, man, these guys are the same guys who made this big show, and there is 50 million views in this video. These guys have made it. It's as if I know something they don't. But actually, the reality is they know more than I do at this point on what's going to work and what people want. So giving them that power, getting a developer the ability to ship something quickly. Again, I think those are important things as you're building out these companies.
No, I love it. Again, I think you talked about not gatekeeping data. I'm a big believer in something like that. I think there's no point hiding behind metrics. There's no point painting a picture that feels like, we're doing so well, but we're actually not doing so well. And democratizing that, to borrow a phrase from Anuj, I think goes a long way in aligning goals, especially in creative companies. I want to quickly ask you something related, though. Now, often when creative companies are scaling, an observed trend is there is a certain degree of loss in creative output, right? I mean, again, it's not like manufacturing. By nature, the product cannot be mass produced, right? No matter how good we get, there's not. I mean, I'm sure there will be a day when AI is writing and directing, but we're a fair way from that, is what I would assume, unless we're in a simulation, in which I'm entirely wrong. But but what I'm trying to get at is, when you're scaling, there is certain loss in creativity. Along with that come the pressures of scaling, right? How do you deal with that? And here's where I'm trying to build up to, is that the classic conflict in creative endeavors, especially entrepreneurship, is the business versus creative. Right? So How do you make sure that you're not losing your edge in creativity, and how do you ensure that balance, especially at an organizational level, that stays? Anuj?
I think this is a very important question, because I think we sometimes we get scared each time we need to scale the creative side of the business, because there is this anxiety, because there are some people who've spent so much time helping us build the organization and the team, and they intuitively know what TTT represents and what the audience wants, that connection, that unless you find a way in the culture to transmit that, it just stays with these. It's like a secret that some people keep.
Yeah.
And others are just.
And then you have this whole situation, and there's an in-group and an out-group and a core group and a non-core group and all of that.
All of those things can happen.
Yeah.
And I think the secret really lies in when you know that as a creator, your voice is only relevant if there is an audience. And so, can we bring the audience to the office, and can we bring the audience to the creator's place and say, without these people, honestly, like, you could talk to yourself, great, but if you're in the business of entertainment, which we are, you're sort of irrelevant. So I think the culture that we're trying to build is to make sure creators keep listening to consumers,
right?
Because they are the ones who are blessing you with a job, with this spirit of storytelling. It comes together because of them. And right. So can you build as many ways to get the creators to listen to them is one fundamental.
Like, keep the feedback loop going.
Keep the feedback loop going. Get data to the creator. Get them to sort of get as many sort of meeting places for them to listen to the audience. I think creators also thrive when they get love and feedback from, right. And it can be criticism too. But right. So we've always been very instinct led, and the cost of that is often indulgence, which is like, हाँ मुझे ये बनाना है, and so it's very difficult to measure मुझे ये बनाना है,
right?
Because there's a time cost and there's a money cost to मुझे ये बनाना है,
right?
So if you're not tuned into the end user, your मुझे ये बनाना है could be 3 months of salary, it could be very little views and disappointment culturally within the organization. Right. So
it reminds me of something that Saurabh Khanna, the writer of Ye Meri Family, said on this podcast a few episodes ago, when he said, make up your mind as a writer or a creator, right? आप किसके लिए लिख रहे हो? Are you writing it for an audience or are you writing it for yourself? And if you're writing for yourself, then ये जिद मत रखो कि कोई देखे इसे. आप अपने लिए लिख रहे हो, आप खुशी से लिखो. Make what you want to make. But yeah, so I think I resonate with that a lot. That makes a lot of sense, keeping the feedback loop going and connecting the creator with the audience. My follow-up to you and Anirudh on this is, it's great to have these principles, right? I think often, and I'm not saying that Anuj only has principles. That's not what I meant.
No,
I said,
but yeah, we struggle with this. So
right,
it's
which
not
is
even
implementation, right? I mean, strategy is only as good as your words, and your words are only as good as your actions. So how do you implement this at an org level, right? Sometimes there's, I mean, a million problems that would come up. You've got a brilliant writer who's just a jerk, right? How do you get him to fall in line with the rest of the org? How do you implement? I mean, what I really want to ask you is, how do you implement this kind of a creative philosophy? How does it manifest itself in the daily?
Yeah, I think one of our investors, who's one of the co-founders at Infosys, told me once that, when you run a company, it's like there's a part of it which is like raising a family, which is your kids will not judge you by your words, they judge you by your actions.
Right.
So every time someone is a jerk at the office and you tolerate it, people see that. You could say anything you want in the town hall, but when you do that, it creates issues. And I think we've been only too aware of that right at the beginning when we started Pocket Aces, because we saw that other companies that we worked, where I've seen in certain teams where the team culture of that organization comes to the fore, and I was like, oh, this is what people talked about when they talked about the great team culture of this company. But then in another company, there was no culture of that sort. And you could see that difference. And that's why we have an internal philosophy of how we run the company, is that we run it like a sports team. Right? So, and I think that's what we've made very, very, very clear to everyone. And we justify that with our actions. So that's really important. And then at different parts of the journey, you've got to, like I said earlier, you've got to change your system of working. And one of the things I've heard innumerable times now through this journey is, "Arey, ye wo company nahi hai." And I said, "Honi bhi nahi chahiye." Right? So I think that if you don't evolve, you will break. And so, there's the cliche that what got you here won't get you there. I think part of it's true. Some of it has to be maintained because that's why you got there. But you have to change. But your actions will dictate that, and you got to have the right systems in place. And a system is better than no system. Right? So it could be late in the day, just get it started, and you will see that it helps. And you need people who implement those systems. And the other thing is, to your earlier question of how do you manage this problem? I think I actually look at it now as a beginner's dilemma.
Right.
Because I've seen it in we have now 4 different verticals. We're launching 2 new verticals soon, and every vertical I've heard that. हाँ, but क्या होगा जब हम इतना quantity को quality के ऊपर उसको emphasize कर रहे हैं. So there I have a very simple philosophy, and it's my personal philosophy, that quantity creates quality, and constraints help you create much better content often than when you have all the resources in the world, because it really makes you dig deep into your own self and come up with something better. And that's true for writing stories or creating a product. All of it's true. Sometimes removing things from a product is better. That's why if you look at TikTok, which was one of my favorite products musically. In fact, some of the big TikTokers today had come to me earlier and said, मुझे एक YouTube channel खोलनी है, क्या करूँ? मैंने कहा YouTube channel मत खोलना. Go to this platform called Musical.ly and see what happens. If the platform goes up, you go up with the platform. If it fails, you are no worse than you are right now.
Right.
And I think even them, if you see the journey, they started as an edtech company, which is funny.
Now they're kind of going back to those roots a little bit.
So much for that.
Yeah.
But right at the end, I think they really had to dig deep and make some bold choices. And so I think if you make more, you learn a lot. And I think the more experiments you do, the better you get at your craft.
Yeah.
And I think that's a model that has only been possible now because of digital entertainment and the phone. Right? If you can write multiple times with no extra cost, whether it's with TTT or on Twitter or whatever, you don't lose anything every time you write. When you had a publisher model with Penguin and HarperCollins and stuff, they actually had a cost to distribute the stuff. So that's why they couldn't do it. It's not like they were just gatekeepers just for the sake of it. So I think that because that cost has declined, quantity is now, you can make as much as you want. If you're a beginner in something, tomorrow's a new day. Nobody knows who you are. Big deal. Start again tomorrow. And I think that philosophy has kept us going. I mean, we're launching 2 new verticals, like I said, and yeah, I told the guys who are working in it, one of them has worked at Filter Copy before, and I said, well, we're going to start from zero tomorrow. So, just get ready. The first day, you're only going to get 50 views. But guess what? Nobody knows who you are. So we can just restart again the day after.
Yeah.
And I think having that philosophy very clear and upfront is important. The second is, in our company, we are very clear in these decisions that we have no creator, quote unquote, writer or actor running the company. So we are at no point conflict with any of our creators, and we can really work alongside them. And yes, the business of entertainment comes before the word entertainment business comes, and so we are very, very focused on that. And so product and content very, very important to us, and we think about that, and that's where the consumer mentality again comes in. And I think the other way I explain it to people is, the Vice founder at once said, which is, there's money on the table. If you're not going to take it, someone else is going to take it and make shit, and then you're going to complain about it. And, I think that is a big problem in our industry. When I arrived here, I had nothing to do with the industry. I knew nothing about it. I just heard people complaining all the time. कि ये भी बेवकूफ़ है, ये भी बेवकूफ़ है, ये भी बेवकूफ़ है. तो मैंने कहा, फिर इंटेलिजेंट कौन है भाई?
बचा कौन?
बचा कौन? And And I think that's a negative cycle that you can get into.
It really is.
If you make, I think you can get out of that cycle. And then quantity can get you out of it. So if you have an advertiser willing to work with you, make something, because that will give you money, power, it'll give you experience of making something, and that'll get you your next gig. So never feel that meri creativity reh gayi, because you should also bet on yourself that you have many more things coming. You know, people ask me, what if someone steals your idea? I'm like, okay, that's fine. They can. And ideas are continuously stolen from each other or whatever.
That's the nature of ideas. That's how it works.
किसी की मतलब, it's not किसी की जागीर नहीं है कि मैंने ये idea बनाया है. Go ahead, copy it. The execution will really matter.
Yeah.
So I think bet on yourself that maybe the first one, you know, people tell me, oh, मेरी IP ले गया. Like, I keep getting these like complaints, and I'm like, ठीक है, तो अगला वाला बना. One of your things will hit if you have confidence in yourself. But if you have only one story to tell, then you're not much of a storyteller, are you? So.
That's a very stark way of putting it. But yeah, I completely agree. I think I want to ask you one question before we could quickly head into a break. What has been one decision, just through a sort of illustrative example, what has been that one decision which really exemplified your creative philosophy? I mean, could have been a very small decision saying, hey, this is something that we'll not do, or this is something we'll do. Just quick thoughts.
I think when we launched Terribly Tiny Talkies, so we were doing tweet-sized fiction.
Right.
And one iterative idea was to say, can we take a tale and make it into like a small video, like a 60-second. Ideally, so one idea was to do 140-second films, but take the tale and convert it into a film. But I think what we did then, which is helped, in the long run, is we said, instead of doing that, can we look at the format for what it offers, which is video is unique. Like what we were able to achieve in text was because we reimagined a short story into an even shorter story. Can we do the same for short films? And can we take the 10, 15, 20 minute short film and shrink it down, but natively? So instead of so one idea was to get inanimate objects to talk to each other and do this really frugal. It would have been fun, and it's a different property, and now we'd completely do it. But what we did then was just to retain the fact that we want to tell stories. I mean, our differentiator is also that and now we want to even optimize for that, is tell stories beautifully, take time, invest and make them rich. And we did that with Talkies. We spent our time, we said, we're a bootstrapped company. We had very little money in the bank, and we said to Vasan Bala and Amit Masurkar and all these guys, we were like, bhai, itne rupe hai. Kuch banaoge? Like, we'll do something mad, but we want to do this ground up. It'll be a fun ride. And they were, again, the constraint, right? Very little money and a crazy company saying we'll distribute it to our 1 million people was a magical combination. And so I think that trusting instinct was pivotal then. It allowed us to build out a now very, very profitable, very well-reputed wing to our business. So I think that was an important decision.
Sounds like you said, I'm opting out of the rat race. I'm going to take my time with this. That's just great. How about you, Anil?
Yeah, I mean, before I go there, I've watched these films and they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it. They did such a good job. And every time I talk to him, I love how much they think about what they do and why they do it. And I think the why actually, to your point on, how we make these decisions, and it becomes clearer and clearer is if the why is clear to everyone.
Right.
And I think, like he's saying, he's also trying to simplify the why for himself and obviously for the team. But then that becomes the template as you scale. And I think it's so important. And I think for us also that has been true, right? When we looked at what do we do and why do we have so many like different brands, and then that's how we came up with this thing of that, our job and what we want to do is actually solve boredom.
Right.
My dream is not to make one film or one show. We want to create a system that outlasts us. But what is the problem that you're solving? Why do you exist? And I think that's driven everything we've done since. One moment which I really remember, though, I think very fondly actually, is in our old office. It was Ashwin, Aditi, and I, the three partners in the business, and we had just released Not Fit, which was India's first or earliest mockumentary. And it did okay. And while there was a lot of people in the industry loved it, like we got so many messages and things saying, "You guys killed it. You're redefining entertainment. You were really taking such risks." But we saw that and we said, well, there's a big problem that we don't have the kind of distribution to change people's mind. And I need to have that distribution before I ask this of the customer, right? Is that take the leap of faith with me. And that was a pivotal moment where we said, you know what, let's not do any web series for the time being, even though that's what we started off with when nobody knew what a web series was. Only us and TVF, I think, were making web series, and maybe Y Films. There was nothing called a web series. And we said, let's hold on, which was a hard thing to do, because obviously the creator and you said, we've written them. I mean, why should we not make them? Let's put them out. And we said, no, we're just going to focus day in, day out on putting out short content on filter copy. And that discipline of taking a hard call like that, I think that served us well in other calls we made, but that really made us the company we are today, because the short video has given us a huge differentiation from other people. And now, because we have such a big distribution footprint, every time we put out a big property, we can land it. And yeah, I don't think we would be the same company if we didn't take that call then.
I love it.
I just want to add to this. I think what they did, that moment is incredibly hard. And to say no to something that is out there in front of you, ready.
Probably a winner.
Yeah. Or definitely accolades, love, all of these things, right? Which serve some amount of your validation needs, and you will get some. So to choose distribution and scale is, and again it reflects in not just the size of the company, but also the philosophy. And yeah, it's incredible, like the consistency and scaled execution these guys have managed to pull off is
I love it. I think
insane.
Yeah, we were tracking filter copy growth all of 2017, all of 2018. The numbers you guys were posting, and I'm sure that comes with a premeditated focus on distribution and how to get that right. Thanks, guys. More fascinating stuff and inspiring pearls of wisdom coming up after this break. Stay tuned to Storytellers and Story Sellers. We'll be right back with Anuj and Anirudh.
Hey everybody, welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd also like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Intel, Storytel, and Cambly. Check them out, they're a really good bunch of brands. This week, in the spirit of Christmas, instead of giving you the long, drawn-out promo that I normally do, all I'm going to do is ask you to give me a Christmas gift. Go to ivmpodcast.com/survey, fill out our survey, and send it out to us. We'd really appreciate it. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Ladies and gentlemen, back on Storytellers and Story Sellers with Anuj Gosalia and Anirudh Pandita. Guys, we talked about distribution just before we went into the break. I'm truly fascinated about that hard call that Anirudh, you took, saying, hey, let's figure out our distribution first before we get our hands dirty further with making new cool stuff. In a nutshell, for someone who's starting out with a company right now, what would your top 3 distribution recommendations be?
Yeah, I mean, my first recommendation would be bet on a platform which is just growing and is not already a large platform and doesn't have its own rules and rulers. So I think that's important. So 2 years back, that was Instagram or Musical.ly. 2 years before that, it was Facebook Video. 2 years before that, it was YouTube. So find that platform, and there are going to be a few, and you may have to take a few bets there which don't pay off. But if they do pay off, the payoff is going to be pretty massive. Second is focus on cheap ways of getting distribution. So how do you get your content out to the first 10 people. Just focus on that. Why will they send it to another 10 people? And because they can. How do you use WhatsApp for that? Or Telegram, I think, increasingly seems like an interesting place to start posting some of this content that you're making. And it could be any content. And see where that fit is. And make content with an experimentation or a mindset. So do a lot of experiments, because from those experiments you are going to get the wisdom to make something better and something that spreads. And the cheaper the experiment and the quicker the experiment, the better it is. And so one of the rules of experimentation is also don't expect success every day.
Right.
Hope to learn something new every day. And so I think that in the first few days it can get very, very hard when you're starting a new channel or a new brand. And it could be for a big company as well. We, like I said earlier, right, we are launching new verticals, and it's going to be the same for us, and some will work and some won't. But that mindset is important, and often you can then quickly find something that works in that distribution medium.
Right.
So those are 3 things I would broadly say. If I have something more, I'll let you guys know.
Anuj?
I think adding to Anirudh's, I would, from a creator point of view, I would look at, if you're on an existing platform, a hack is to look at trends. So to look at what people share already, to look at what is, say, YouTube trending. So one is, I think this is from BuzzFeed, which is to make content in this Venn diagram, which is what do you want to say and what people want, and find the intersection. Right, so a lot of new creators are like, this is my skill, or this is my art, and this is my strength, but people may not care for it. So it's nicer to look at what people care for already and say, can my art fit in? It's a very crude
sort of inception sort of way to do it.
I mean, like the purest creators may get a bit pissed off, but it's a faster way to...
These are the easy wins you need for your content to really take off.
Faster way to access already, like if people are talking about, say, like for example on Instagram, like fashion's massive. So what can you bring to fashion which is unique? So find those. That is one. Another one would be, I think, across these new platforms, especially if you can be, in the beginning at least, be shorter, right? So entertain without, unless you're creating like an incredibly beautiful or very, very well researched, fascinating piece which has the potential to go crazily viral. I think it's better to be sort of snappier, shorter, precise than do long format.
Yeah.
Just some
build for the attention span of the platform.
Build for the attention span, because again, these are small hacks to get in some edge over the rest of the creators.
Fantastic. I think before we move on from distribution, I truly believe, and I agree with Anil when he said this before, is no matter what you're selling, right? Could be content, could be soap. If your distribution is sorted, it significantly improves your chances of succeeding in the long term, right? However, there is this concern, and I mean, since both of you run companies that are socially distributed content, there is this giant state of Facebook that all of us are suckling on, and is there a conscious plan to move away from that? I know you guys are building an app, there's owning distribution as well, but there's that comes with its own challenges of scaling, and it's expensive, and you need a unit economics positive to make sure every view is actually making you money, not losing you money. So what are your thoughts on moving on from socially distributed and alternate means of distribution?
I mean, I really like Facebook. I know it's a controversial thing to say
at this point. At this point it is.
And Mark hasn't paid me to say that, but I think Facebook and its many brothers and sisters are interesting platforms to be on. I think you get massive reach from them. So we are actually very, very confident that this will remain for a long time, and it's not going to be, it's not going to be like the article links type business which went away. It's because I think at all times when you're working with platforms, what I try to do is put myself in the shoes of the platform product manager or the platform, CEO or whatever, and say, is what I'm doing aligned with what they're doing and what their mission is? And so with Facebook, it's very clear they want people to stay on the platform for as long as they can keep you there. So do not try and take away the traffic from Facebook, because then they will charge you the tax.
Right.
And they should charge you the tax by any normal economic wisdom. And it's the same for YouTube, and these things are not going away. So I don't think that's an issue. Yes, if you're overly indexed on one platform, that is a problem, because anything could happen to that page. You could get a copyright violation strike, which may not even be real, but you'll be out of business for 2 months while you resolve it.
Right.
It could be anything could happen there. That company may run out of money. That doesn't seem possible for some of these guys, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, MySpace shut down.
Yeah. So anything is possible. But I think so that's why you keep going to new distribution mediums. So for us, we obviously bet very, very big on Facebook right at the beginning. That worked well. Then we built YouTube. Then we built Instagram. Then we built, now we're working on a Snap and TikTok pretty aggressively. Places where there are existing platforms, we do not want to build platforms, because it's a losing game usually, because you just need a lot of capital to compete. And if you don't have a differentiation in your product, you really are just competing on capital. And guess what? The guy you're competing with has the biggest balance sheet in the world. So it's very difficult. So if you're trying to compete with Netflix, get ready in India to spend $1 billion plus. If you have it, good, congratulations and good luck. And same with like competing against Facebook and stuff. Places where there are no platforms, I think those are very interesting places where you should try your best to build a great downstream product with close to the consumer. So, there are places which we'll talk about. But other than that, I think just be in as many platforms as possible. And that's the same thing we did with OTT. So we are obviously working with Netflix, but we have other platforms that we're working with as well. And again, spread out those relationships, and that way, that's the, I think sometimes the simple rules of business make a lot of sense. If you're a supplier, make sure that you have many clients, and, vice versa, right? So, so I think the socially distributed business is not going anywhere. As long as you're equipped to be that feed navigator, or that, person who understands how the algorithms work. And often I feel that our teams understand those feeds and what consumer preferences are and how those algorithms work better than some of those companies, because they don't have to actually battle that algorithm on a daily basis.
Right.
We do. So we learn a lot. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on where this will go. New platforms will emerge, and so you have to bet on new platforms and not do to yourself what TV did to itself.
Right. Whereas TV is still doing to itself. Great thoughts there. I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of don't have a problem of concentration. Don't have one platform overly indexed to your top and bottom line in terms of viewership. And always look out to engage with these algorithms in a way that is more meaningful to your business. I know, does that ring true in your experience as well?
Yeah, I think so. Also, going back to my original thought, with Facebook especially, we were born on or because of Facebook. So,
right.
As much as we'd like to diss them today of all the algorithmic changes, I think the opportunity of...
I won't diss them because of the algorithmic changes. I'm fine with the algorithm. It's the shadiness that I have a problem with. But I'll save that for another...
that's another podcast.
The algorithm's there, man.
आवाज ही नहीं आ रही यार मुझे कुछ सुनाई नहीं दे रहा.
Like I said, that's another story.
So, the speed at which you can distribute through these platforms is incredible. At the same time, though, in our case, with video, we're able to leverage Facebook and Instagram quite well. But with text and with some kind of formats, I feel, and we've built on that, and we're constantly iterating now, in fact, pivoting into audio in a big way, is that the delivery of some content experience, and if there is space within that experience, I feel like Anirudh said, there is an opportunity to build great communities. And the size of our country is massive. So, every form of entertainment cannot be necessarily delivered effectively through a Facebook, Instagram, TikTok also. So I feel like there is education, even like meditation. There is such massive businesses being built in the West. I feel like there is, like when I look at my parents, I feel like they spend such incredible amounts of time on WhatsApp. I feel like if they had an alternative which was more meaningful to their lives, this is they're choosing it out of almost a lack of options.
Right.
Similarly with younger people and reading, I feel like stories were served in the book format, which is now, I feel, for many people it feels intimidating. So can that same meaningful entertainment be served differently? And that's our endeavor with our proprietary app.
This reminds me of something that, I'm sorry, but it just quickly reminded me of what the New York Library did with the classics, and great example of what you're talking about adapting it to the platform. They took classics like Alice in Wonderland, a bunch of others, and they retold those stories page by page on Instagram stories, right? So it's interesting animation, page text adapted to Insta stories. So you put your thumb on one side, so there's like space there. It's beautifully adapted to the formats that the millennial, such an overused word, but young audiences are getting used to.
One format that we do, like chat fiction, for example, right?
Right.
Incredibly popular. Like we generate over 400 pieces of chat fiction every day on our app.
Wow.
And the engagement, the depth of engagement on these stories is insane, because again, this is a format they could read hours on, because it feels like friends talking. But within that format, you can deliver so many incredible things. You could deliver education, you could deliver great fiction, you could make it interactive. So there are these opportunities which we feel like we can make with our storytelling and writing capability. Right. I feel like we have an opportunity to build a great product.
It's lovely that you're solving reading and viewing kind of at the same time, which is an interesting way.
Reading, viewing, listening. I feel like stories, reading for the urban 25-year-old to begin with, and then build that community first, and then you potentially even scale it globally.
Right. Yeah, and I think on distribution, going back to the point, I think hearing him talk, I think one of the things that I forgot to mention, and you can see it in the way he's thinking about the world, is it's built on many communities. So I think even if you're starting off, if there's any community you feel you belong to, it could be ethnic, linguistic, it could be anything else also. Interest-based. Yeah. Make for that, because that community will help you in ways you don't know about, and big things can come out of very small insights, right? Each and everything, where he said meditation, we hear so much about meditation in India, yet we don't have any version of Headspace or Calm or whatever, right? So I think there is a lot of opportunities for people, and I'm not a big believer in that, everything that has to be made has been made. So,
no, I don't think we're at the end of progress yet.
Yeah. The end of internet has not come.
Yeah, it's not come. Lovely. I think there's some great insights there. It's fantastic that we get to make stuff that we want to make. You get to enable creators this way, but at the end, somebody's got to pay for it, right? And I want to pivot to talking about revenue models. Now, I know Filtercopy has done some amazing work in branded content, right? I think the way you guys have cracked it, it's a repeatable model. I think it works beautifully as well. But is branded content enough? Are you looking at alternate monetization? And if you are, what excites you about the future? I know licensing is big. I know merch is big. But what is it that excites you?
भारी क्वेश्चन पूछा, कितना काफी है
ना? कितना exactly?
मुझे भूख बहुत लगती है, तो बहुत सारा चाहिए. I think branded content will increase in its kind of scope and size, and we will eat heavily into ad budgets going forward as well. I think my take on that is that on all these ad platforms, ad-supported platforms, the ad itself, whatever that ad is a native unit on the on that particular platform. So, for example, for Facebook, it became the native post, or for Instagram now it's that little like story or whatever, right? And increasingly, because those are short span platforms, the advertising is short span as well,
right?
But the content is longer,
right?
And so, if you are an advertiser, how do you get attention? And that, just by inventory spends becomes harder. So I think storytelling will have to be done through branded content. They don't have any other options at this point. So I think branded content will continue. Having said that, you cannot have one. Just like you cannot have one distribution medium, you should have multiple revenue streams. I actually think a lot of interesting revenue streams are going to open up. It's not just AVOD, SVOD, TVOD, because that's what the 60, 70-year-old media executives will tell you, because that's all they know. But it could be Beats by Dre. That could be a new model if you have a nice music label. Who knows what you can do? You could create headphones. You talked about having nice headphones. Who knows what can happen? If you're a beauty influencer, there's no reason you cannot have a line of your own.
Absolutely.
And if you are a company like us who works with all these guys, there's no reason you cannot start more of those kind of businesses. These are obviously all early day thoughts. I don't think one revenue stream is sufficient, especially in a country like India where depth of each individual vertical is very low. So you need different revenue streams if you want to have significant scale. So it's not like America where you can just say, okay, I'm just a food network and I'm going to be $100 million top line company. That just doesn't happen in India. Our market's not deep enough yet. Maybe in 10, 15, 20 years it may be true, but not at this moment. So I think you have to keep your eye out. So whether it's OTT originals or licensing that you do, new brands you create either with your own brands or with other creators that you work with. And then in the platform game, if you have a platform of your own, there's a lot of interesting things you can do. And I think China has done some phenomenal work on that, because what I love about what they've done is they have solved for their own consumers without looking westwards. And I think that there are a lot of great examples of monetization models there, which are not single stream monetization, and they have all kinds, like whether in books it's like to read the next page you have to pay, and it's some small microtransactions, or you sometimes have to pay to just get a better stream. And I mean, I think Netflix has taken a page out of that in India and it's not giving you certain, kind of content. And that's fair. I mean, if I don't pay, I shouldn't get a 4K stream, which is fine. Actually, for the user, they understand that. And I think the principles behind gaming, etc., will support some of these principles of monetization as we go forward. So I think we are just scratching the surface. And like Anuj said, for even distribution, that understanding that particular platform, I think for platforms and for creators on that, understanding that user experience and giving them, monetizing that user experience, whether it's directly by monetizing the user or by using advertiser or third parties, those are going to be important. Like in gaming, I'm seeing people giving these big gamers, streamers 5,000, 10,000 rupees Paytm, and I was like, what is going on? But that's great. I mean, that's users appreciating these guys right away and supporting them. And Patreon's big in the US now. So I think you're going to see lots of different ways in which people monetize. And I think you're going to have an ace monetization team as well, which really starts thinking about this as a product versus, okay, like there's some content, I just got to sell this content, right? Like that's just insufficient at this point. You need to have, even those guys are part of your
alternate monetization sort of.
Yeah, they need to also understand your users and this experience.
Yeah, I think sorry. In India, our audience doesn't mind ads, right? I mean, the standard emergent model out of the West is ads, less ads, no ads, or ads, no ads, or ads, no ads, more content. In India, the advertiser has always subsidized the viewer, right? I mean, our per channel rates, if you end up watching on TV, you're paying anywhere between, like you were paying before the new TRI regulation, you're paying anywhere between 7 and 12 rupees or 7 and 20 rupees per channel per month, per year, sort of, which is a pittance, right? Again, so I think, I mean, I love the fact that you called out the learnings that are coming in from gaming, especially microtransactions, and how that's enabling a more sort of direct to consumer monetization model. I hope that happens for video creators as well, not just for gamers. But I think the ecosystem has a little bit of a way to go, right? With the Chinese apps, really everything's sort of in one place, right? WeChat is not just a chat app; it's now also it's a tourism app, and it's a mall, and it's everything in one, right? I think we need to go a little bit further to be able to do that. My thoughts about this, especially in India, and this is something that I spoke about at a sort of TEDx type thing that I did as well, is that we've imported so much of our internet that at some point we've forgotten that, hey, there's an entire audience that doesn't know that the red cross means shut the window. Right, intuitively does not understand the visual language of the West, especially the design language that we're creating for them. I'm looking at it from a very front-end perspective, but I'm sure there's a deeper developer truth to this as well. There's a deeper distribution truth to this as well. And to me, it's heartening to see guys like maybe a ShareChat try to solve for it, right? I mean, to various degrees of success, and it's still early days for those guys. But very, very interesting days in that... In that regard, Arun, let me bring you in on this as well. Your thoughts about revenue and how it stacks up for where you're going in the next 2 to 5 years, maybe.
So I pretty much echo Anirudh's thoughts in the sense that we can't limit our revenue as a media tech-enabled media company to one stream. So as we make revenue through our in lesser but limited distribution through social, we are also partnering with OTT brands and building original content for them. So that is a revenue stream. We do a lot of content licensing. We also have book deals, so that unlocks another monetization model. But I think you
also do workshops? Are those?
We do events.
Yeah, events and workshops.
Events, and so we're building out a digital module for that too, so that scales in whatever small way. But I think one thing that we're, again, leap of faith betting big on is the ability and the willingness of our community to pay. I think we're at a place where we believe we can create compelling original content in formats that will excite and will interest our users, and will offer enough value, hopefully, that they will come out and pay. And again, not top dollar, but in sort of micro payment mechanisms, which will build a truer connection. And that's what we're building towards with our audio content and sort of a publisher play there, which is intimidating and scary, because if you look at just data, it's not very strong.
Right.
But within the community we talk to, and again, when it's like beginner's mind, we want to trust that we'll get 1,000 paying consumers. They are a core community, and if we can get them to see enough value, that will percolate. That's how we started. If we can go back there and say we'll build value for our core users, and if they are able to give us 50 rupees a month, 30 rupees a month, we've built something special for that universe. And can we scale that? So build to scale, but content only for very, very specific
users. I love it. I think I want to bring Anirudh back in here, because you talked about starting a couple of new things, right? And is that the same approach that, first of all, what are those things? I think we've talked about them twice or thrice, and everyone's listening and wondering what is Anirudh about to drop. So what are those things, and do you also have a similar approach to it, or are you looking at maybe a bigger launch?
No, so actually on launches, I'm more about just launching. So versus creating this massive launch, because I think
stealth mode.
Not stealth, just launching. Just a simple launch.
Push off.
Yeah, and I'm encouraging everyone who's working on those channels. Okay, who's our audience? Let's get 10,000 people, like what you're saying, so that we can improve the product. Once the product is of some quality, we have, in each of these verticals, we have a point of view on how we can get revenue. So we don't start anything without some version of how will we make money on this. We need to have that. I don't know, maybe it's our middle class roots कि कुछ तो कैसे पैसे बनाने हैं वो, that we need to have that thinking. It doesn't have to happen right away, obviously.
Right.
So yeah, we don't know big launches. It's going to be simple, and we will try and improve the product as we go. I won't talk about both those things right now, but they will hopefully release. When is this episode releasing?
This will probably be like end December.
Oh, yeah, we would have launched by then.
Yeah,
so.
in December.
So we're launching 2 channels.
Now that we have that out of the way.
We're launching something in animation.
Right. Fantastic. I love animation.
And something in infotainment / the what we call the AHA space.
Right.
So we'll see how those work out. And again, it's for each of those, it's going to be about finding the right content distribution fit also, right? So how do you give India its new version of CNBC and Discovery? How do you, animation is something that we started thinking about it a long time back. It's just that now is the time when we feel like we can launch it. In fact, we had commissioned something 2 years back, and we actually have that whole thing made, and we learned a lot from how not to do things again. So it'll be interesting. Let's see how it works out. So far, the tests have been okay. So yeah, those are the 2 things. But even on loco, on gaming side, there's a lot coming in. That's actually a big, focus area for us going forward, with the same mindset that he said, which is finding these small spots where communities can be made.
But loco's pretty big by now.
Loco is big, but that opportunity is very large.
Right.
And so I think personally that gaming is, and the gaming community is the most overlooked part of the entertainment pie. Also, again, because... Most ignored.
Overlooked is like a soft word.
Yeah, it's ignored. Yeah. And just look at, on the publisher side, the numbers are bigger than movie studios now. Yeah. And I feel it's because of the people running these companies, and they all hate me by now if they're listening to this podcast, but because they're just obsessed with Netflix, and every single guy wants to be Netflix, and it's like, why?
How many Netflixes are you going to have?
How many Netflixes are you going to have? Exactly. And so I think India will have 4.
Yeah, we already have the Netflix that is Jio, then the Netflix that's... I'm just going to dig myself into a hole.
No, but that's the problem, because people just want to be... It's interesting, right? You learn these things in business school, you learn about differentiation, you do exactly the opposite when you come out.
Yeah.
And everyone's just making the same product. It's the same big banner on top, multiple boxes, and there's no differentiation. And it's because of what you said, because everything is imported from a product point of view. And we have not learned yet how to make great products. I think we are still in that journey. And it's not like I have cracked that either, but we are trying to learn. And so I think there's a lot to be done in gaming. And there will be some places where we hit it out of the park and some places where we just strike out. But we are really focusing on building that for the long haul, and building it patiently, versus pushing it unnecessarily. And
versus move fast, break things. No, we
move fast.
Don't break things.
And break things. But it's not about, like, I don't know how best to put it, but not just supporting it for the sake of showing it to the world that look at what this great success we've created.
Sort of creating meaningful value in the consumer's life.
Yes, yes. You have to create that, because in the long run, that's what you get rewarded for. So I think that's something that's taking up our time as well right now.
Fantastic. I think, I was a big fan of Loco when it came out. Again, I don't have time enough to keep playing, but I think there's an interesting way of looking at quizzing. I'm a big quizzer right from childhood, so interesting model there. Are you looking at expanding that platform into other games? How are you looking at it? I know I'm probably asking you stuff that may be confidential, but
no, it's fine. This stuff I can talk about. We are obviously, again, going back to why we exist, which is, boredom is what we're trying to solve, and I think people are looking at gaming as one of those things. And I think last year was a seminal year for gaming in India, because the Geo effect finally kind of really came through, and people downloaded PUBG. And PUBG is a 1 gig, 2 gig plus application.
Yeah.
When we developed any app before that, if you told someone that I'm going to create a 1 gig app, they'd be like, you're crazy.
Yeah,
like this.
Laughed out of your room.
Yeah, this is never going to work. And yet there are so many downloads in India. And I think that's just the
10
start.
10 million DAU or something.
Yeah, some crazy number. It's really high. And it's weird now. That's going to be a large secular movement, according to me, and we are just PUBG is the first game that'll do that. I think Call of Duty has done well as well in India. There are going to be more of those kind of games as well. Obviously, the hyper casual games are good and they're working, and they've been working for a while.
I think that's where the women are also coming in.
Yeah, women have been playing that for a while, and we have on Loco now hyper casual game tournaments as well. But we are going to meaningfully engage with that community. You know, whether it's on the esports side, and really we are actually figuring out that puzzle as we speak. But because nothing is built. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think some of the guys like Nodwin, etc., are doing some work in that, but nothing's really built, and it will take some doing to get it organized and do it in a way where we create meaningful value. And it reminds me a lot of 2014 in the online world. It's kind of like amateurs are doing things, and it looks like, why do people do this? Looks like a plaything, like you was describing earlier. It has a lot of the characteristics of something that can become really, really large. And it's just about who will get it together. And I think no real movement has happened on that.
Right.
Why that is, I don't know. We are trying to also find out. But
usually the answer is money.
Yeah, but I feel like there's so much money floating around that I thought someone would pick up some dollars to do it. But I think it's also because it's because of this the geo factor really didn't play out before this. So people were afraid that because we don't have consoles at home, right?
Yeah.
So how will you stream or do anything like that if you don't have a console? But
we're about like an 85% mobile first.
All mobile, and now I think that will change, and I think it's a very. I think the two spaces I'm most excited about personally, and not as a company, just is definitely esports and audio.
Yeah,
they're the two big opportunities. I don't know what we'll execute in those properly, but at least in gaming we have made a first kind of foray, but. For audio, is we haven't done anything, and I find it really interesting as a medium.
I remember talking to you about gaming. I think it was about 6 months ago that we met last.
Yes.
And I remember when I was marketing TVF Play, and at that time content thickness wasn't a thing, right? We were still ramping up outputs, and that was still like 5 months was for one web series, and you'd maybe end up doing 2 or 3 sketches. Now it's like everything's like a well-oiled machine, right? Everybody's got like 3 videos going out a week, and we'll do a web series when do you want it, right? Abhi kal bana dega main web series. But this is at that time, and we were contemplating gaming as a use case to drive frequency, right? Can you merge a Unity platform with what we're doing on video, and can you do sort of games there, etc.? So it's heartening to see that there have been forays made. I think Loco is a great indicator of success in that space. What Hotstar, I think Hotstar and Sony Live to some extent got their skin in the game with Video Arena on Hotstar, and Pepsi obviously investing a bunch of money in it. We're trying to figure out how we can get a bunch of telcos involved, because gaming sort of a massive usage driver. So I think efforts are underway in trying to figure out what the infrastructure around the gaming ecosystem really looks like. But yeah, that inflection year is still, I think it's just about upon us, right?
Almost there, kind of.
Yeah, almost there. What gives me hope, the stat that gives me hope is this, right? You have PKL, which has been happening, the Pro Kabaddi League has been happening for the past, 3 years, 4 years. And Kabaddi is like a really well-entrenched sport, right? Matlab, India ka national sport and all of that feels, right? Even there's that debate, hockey hai, Kabaddi hai, kya hai, pata nahi. But whatever, Kabaddi is really deeply entrenched. And still you have like 220 to 250 professional Kabaddi players in India, right? That's for a sport that we've had for like 5,000 years, probably. Yes. Compare that to esports, and we're already at 1,000 plus professional gamers, right? Yeah. And you can only sustain a professional environment when there's some kind of money coming in. People are seeing the kind of return. So that gives me hope, right? While everything else is everything else.
Yeah, completely. I think for me, when the penny dropped is when we were doing one of these consumer interviews, and this kid was sitting across the table from me, started describing one of the gamers, one of the streamers and gamers, something they did in one of the games. And it reminded me of how we used to talk about Sachin playing the straight drive. Like, it was the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that
minuscule joy.
Yeah, that joy. And I was like, okay, this makes okay, everything is okay. I get it. It's the same moment I had when I went, I think it was 14 YouTube Fan Fest, and I was expecting 1,000 people. There were a lot of people there, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, the world has moved on.
and you feel like you know a secret others don't, and I think so that I think that moment is coming, and it's coming very, very soon. And guess what? Who has, if you want to be good at a sport or anything in life, but in a sport you gotta practice every day. You gotta spend 6-8 hours practicing every day, which is true in esports as well. Guess who has that kind of time? Usually 16-year-olds. And guess who has no distractions? Someone in a tier 2, tier 3 town.
Yeah.
So, I was describing it today in my office, which is in esports as well, the best player is going to come from some Ranchi, and it's going to be an MS Dhoni type guy. And the kids in the big cities who all want to get into IIT and Stanford are not going to see it because they're too busy following playbook written for them by their parents. And I think that's where, obviously there's going to be a shiny new console put in front of the kid here, but they're just not going to put, I think, that amount of time. Yeah. But a kid playing on their phone all day because got nothing else to do, they will kill it. And in more ways than one, and win the chicken dinner.
Vineet, I'm curious to know what you think of audio as a medium. What drew you to first this podcast? Just very quick interview question back at you.
Right. So I've been, I was turned on to podcasts by my wife. My wife is a massive podcast fan to the extent that a lot of people follow her for which podcasts to listen to. So I got into this about 4, maybe 5 years ago when I started listening to Welcome to Night Vale. And Welcome to Night Vale was like my first podcast, and it just blew my mind, right? Because I'm a big fiction guy, even though these days I enjoy non-fiction a lot, and I really enjoy conversations with smart people. But Welcome to Night Vale was when I was like, wait, there's something here that is unbelievably powerful, right? And then I just got turned into it. And so long story short, a couple of months ago, this friend of mine called Smita reached out and said, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, yeah, but about what? And he was like, what do you do? And I said, I work in the business of entertainment. It's like, let's do a podcast about the business of entertainment. And I thought it was a great way to chronicle what we do. I truly believe that as a culture, we're among the worst at documenting what we do. Right? So, for example, if I want to read about the history of ESPN, there's a book for it. I want to read the history of CA, there's a book for it. I want anything, right? Viacom, HBO, whatever it is. There's a book about it. There's a book about it. There's a Wikipedia page, whatever I need, right? I want to find out the history of, I don't know, XYZ young media company, and there's nothing about it, right?
No, if you want to know how Raj Kapoor made films,
there's very, very little.
I've wanted to know since I was a kid. And he lived not too far from here. Yeah. No idea. Because there is no great documentation.
Nothing.
But Sidney Lumet has written a book, and you can read that book and feel like, okay, actually I can make movies. It's not so difficult.
So that was my sort of underlying motivation, apart from just meeting great people and talking to them. I was that, hey, can we find a way to chronicle what it is that we're doing here, right? Because we all work very hard, right? And truly speaking, media is a magnifier of that has no other parallel, right? A little bit that you do today ends up being meaningful to so many people that it warrants a deeper look at how this is happening, right? And we didn't do that for TV, we didn't do that for a lot, and look at the state that's landed us in, right? Yeah. So just my little bit of giving back. So awesome. That's how I got into this. Great. My sort of final question to you guys, and this is kind of what I really wanted to bring you guys in to talk about is, I'm sure it's incredibly hard to build and run a successful company. I'm sure it's even harder to sort of visualize what it looks like 5 years down the line. Again, I'm not looking at 2050, I'm looking at 2025 and saying, so what does the future of your entertainment media startups look like? What does Pocket Aces and TTT look like in 2025?
You want to go first?
Man, jeez, I don't know. I mean, 2025, I don't know.
2022, that's 3 years, right? let's shorten that horizon there.
I mean, let me think through this because my answer hasn't changed from the time. It's again one of those 0 to 1 says, it's like secrets, right? Which is like, do you know something that others don't know?
Right.
And what is that? And that keeps evolving, right? So I think one of our jobs as people who run organizations is to keep looking for secrets, right? And to say that, okay, what you made and what got you here is a curiosity, a hunger, and an ambition, but it led you to this place here. So can you look for secrets? And by secrets is like for me, a secret which I'm putting out in some way and I'm betting on, and like we spoke about, is voice, which is when I experience that intimacy in my ear with a great podcast or a great fiction show, I'm like, there is something here, and each time someone else listens to it, they feel similarly.
Right.
And so, is this going to be the truth 2 years from today? It's one currently just intuition. Then you will go back and do a bunch of work to talk to actual people, and so it's not just your secret. Can it be someone else's secret too? And so can you build that as a community? And then people are like, hey, thank you, you gave me this thing that looked like a toy in the future but is now a product in my hands. I think it's not a specific answer, sorry, but it's that to tinker and to look for secrets and build those into either content or products that I think people will love.
I think that's a specific enough answer to it.
I hope so.
Okay, on this, we do this all the time. So we try and do this internally, which is we do these dream weaving exercises where it sounds like bullshit when you do it the first time, but then it kind of gets better as you do it.
Yeah.
And you create crazy worlds, and actually some of them come true. I think, like I said earlier, the two spaces I'm most excited about because of how new they are and what potential they hold is definitely gaming and audio, because I think, and maybe gaming and audio, as we've seen in the past as well. There's obviously that has a great intersection. Mostly from an industry point of view, it comes down to what can the phone do that other mediums can't do. So whether it's, again, that leads you to similar answers. You'll see interactivity, short content. And I think new business models will be built in that. So whether it's going to be this masterclass type of, learning tool, or it's going to be more a Coursera type of learning tool, or is it going to be, this or Cameo or whatever that everyone's trying to copy now.
What is Cameo?
It's like you pay a celebrity to, do something for you. So send a birthday greeting, and I'm getting at least
Instagram
one.
ads?
Which one?
Instagram ads?
No.
Okay.
I'm getting a bunch of requests for a talent saying, this is this great platform, and I'm like, I know that platform.
Fankind. There's a platform.
बहुत सारे हैं ऐसे भी तो.
Fankind's more CSR, while Cameo is more like personal.
वो सब मतलब idea वो सब वही है. उसी को छिपा है basically. So, but I think so I think these two, gaming and audio, interesting for us as a company. We've listed a few critical things that we need to do. We want to get to 1 billion users. That's a big internal, aim.
Big, hairy, ambitious goal.
Yeah, it's a goal, and I think it's doable because, it's just our content can go abroad as well. It's something, which deserves its own podcast. And why, just like we haven't been able to document our, the work we've done, we've not been able to export it well enough either. Yeah. And so I think there is one opportunity of going there. But India itself will have 1 billion, users. So for a real company which wants to solve this problem, they need to get this kind of user base, or at least touch it in some way. We also have said that we want to be a top 10 employer in India, regardless across any sector.
Right.
And
that's not a goal you hear every day.
Yes.
Yes. Upfront.
Because and. I remember we put it in our press release also. One of our colleagues said, that sounds a little like bullshit. Like, what is that? Like you said, you'll invest in people. And I'm like, that's actually a big problem we have in India right now. I'm not able to find talent. Yeah. And it's not, there's a lack of talent, there's a lack of training. And then there's a lack of upskilling because these opportunities arrive and then we're just running and nobody's like teaching someone how to do it. And I think we've taken this year to do that a little bit, and hopefully they'll give us some fruits of that. And then the last is to, come up with some version of, a form factor or platform that we really give to the users here, and we can really have them contribute to as well. Of course, in this journey, if you're going to do these things, you're going to make great content and you'll hopefully win some great awards and all this stuff. But we are really focused on building with that mindset. And this is not like I didn't come up with it, like our team came up with it. And there were a lot of crazy things on that on that board. So that's how I think we will evolve. And long may the masters of the world support all of us. So
Inshallah. I think what's lovely to hear when both of you talked about your companies maybe 2022, 2025 is that you both envision still being there, which is not a lot of a lot of companies are like exit, figure, whatever, but it's great to see that
the one thing, the constant reminder, and it's been because we've also been bootstrapped, so there have been many nights of cash flow struggles and so many financial challenges, especially in the early days, and this applies to creator, to a company of our size, to I think even bigger companies, is just the idea that quitting is not an option. And while it sounds very cliched, just like that, don't quit is so powerful, which is like you'll win if you last long enough.
Right.
Like even lasting, the idea that you'll succeed in 3 years and it's very easy to tweak ambition based on short-term success, but just hanging in there gives you there's fuel there too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. I think cliches are cliches because some of them are true. Anirudh, just truly fantastic having you guys here. Great time talking to you and truly enlightening about some of the stuff that you guys are doing. Before I let you go, there's this one question that we throw to all our guests. One story that you'd recommend to our audiences. It could be anything. Could be a game, could be a meme, could be a book, a song, video, whatever. Something that you'd recommend for our listeners to check out.
Good question. Well, we talked about Succession earlier.
But the bag.
Yeah. Let me think about that one. What should I recommend? I really like, for entrepreneurs, I like a book by Ben Horowitz called Hard Things About Hard Things. I think single-handedly, if I could talk about a book which helps me and I read it all the time, it has a chapter on how to fire someone or cut someone from your organization, because it is one of the hardest things to do.
It really is.
And there could be good reason for it, but they were your they were fighting the war with you, and now you have to shoot them. It's hard, and how to do it with respect and grace, and what it teaches you about running something. I think that's a book I really, really, really recommend to anyone starting a company. So
Ben Horowitz, Hard Things About Hard Things. Anuj? Was that your option?
That was my option. In fact,
now you guys know what all the best entrepreneurs are doing, right?
In fact, the don't quit bit is there in the book. So there's an incredible chapter about something called the struggle. And so it's there in the book. But anyway, I'll go to a completely different kind of recommendation. It's a fun recommendation, and it's a show called Barry.
Oh, I love Barry.
Barry is an incredible show about a serial killer who ends up in acting class. And that's all I'll say. That's a great premise.
It features the most underrated, bar none, the most underrated actor of our time called Bill Hader.
Wow.
So, amazing guy. You've seen him do comedy on Saturday Night Live, and now you see him play a serial killer who wants to act. It's beautiful. Great recommendation.
So,
once again, Anuj Gosalia, Anirudh Pandita, thank you so much for your time. You were listening to Storytellers and Storysellers. This is Vineet Kanabar signing off. Thank you. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcasts.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashcharya on Twitter and Instagram.
If you want to reach out to me, I am on Ani Pandita on Twitter and on Instagram.
And if you want to reach out to me, I'm at Gosalia Anuj on Twitter and Anuj Gosalia on Instagram.
The modern world is obsessed with food and agriculture. Everywhere you look, new and exciting technologies are bringing food innovation to your street market, your grocery store, your doorstep, and your plate. From our quest for the perfect food photos to our rediscovery of ancient grains. Quite simply, food has never been sexier. But guess what? The modern food system is broken. It's a major cause of climate change, antibiotic resistance, and global poverty. So how did we get here, and where are we going? Most importantly, how are we going to feed 10 billion people globally by the year 2050 through better, more sustainable means? I'm Varun Deshpande.
And I'm Ramya Ramurthy. And we work for the Good Food Institute, a global non-profit accelerating the transformation to a more healthy, sustainable, and just food system. The next food revolution is here. On Feeding 10 Billion, we're giving you the inside view. You can tune into us every Tuesday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.
How many times have you caught yourself Googling stuff on health and wondering if it's the right information? How many times have you heard different health experts give opposing views, which has only left you confused? There are rising cases of cancer, heart, diabetes, stress, and autoimmune diseases. Meet the patients and the experts who paved the path of true healing. Join me, Rachna Chachi, cancer nutrition coach and nutritional therapist on Heal and Hearty. I take you through my own journey of recovery from an incurable disease and the journey of so many others who healed only via nutrition and holistic healing. Find the answers you seek for what's good for your health and what's good for your soul. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. Don't forget your date with good health.